Good morning, guys, from San Diego, California. So if you're new to our channel and just like stumbling across this video, we love Mexico. We especially love driving around Baja and have a fair amount of experience doing that. But we wrapped up about a 10-day road trip in our Class A motorhome around Northern Baja, and this is a question and answer session.
All right, well, let's jump right into people's questions for us. Solix asks, I would be interested in your opinion of how you were treated by the culture in that part of Mexico.
The Mexican culture is such a loving and family-oriented culture. And in this northern part of Baja, we've experienced nothing but love.
Yeah, Victor's, we went out and saw the sights with them. When we were down in Bahia, we went and had lunch and breakfast and dinner with the family that we made friends with there. And
cherished moments, truly.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is from our Canadian buddy, question Mark. Been thinking about going to Baja with a 33-foot Class A and towing a car, so there's backing up problems. We're wondering how much time will be spent on gravel roads, or are the bad roads only when going to certain attractions?
Well, as far as gravel roads go, I would say that's only for certain attractions.
When you get off the main highway, not every road is paved.
But Highway 5 is fully paved all the way down, and
except for the 23-mile stretch.
Yeah, and then Highway 1 is paved the whole way. You will deal with potholes, but and I will say, everybody we talked to said that the road was exceptionally in poor condition this year because of the weather that the West Coast has had. So they don't really seal the potholes when they refill them. They just put that black stuff in them and then they walk around on it and pack it down, and that's it. So then when you get a rain, it just floods and washes all of those potholes back out and kind of defeats the purpose. So, but gravel roads, other than that one stretch on the 5, you're gonna be okay, and if you just go slow.
So he also asks availability of campsites in most campgrounds. That could be a very seasonal question, but generally speaking, in the winter months is the cooler time of year, and I would consider it the busy season. But we have never really had any problems. Now, if you keep in mind, there's like the San Felipe 250, the Baja 1000, and there's certain festivals. You know, you might run into issues, but generally speaking, I don't think you'd have any problems.
Pay attention to local events. Everything that I've read, and then everything that we saw in terms of campground pricing and stuff, would suggest that summer is definitely more of a peak season. If you're going down in the wintertime, you may well be the only one in the campground.
But now for the whales, like down in Guerrero Negro, January, February, March might be a little busier because that's a pretty big draw. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you answer this one. I'll just read it to you. It's by Susie Boychuk. Would it be safe for a lone 55-year-old, more than capable woman to travel down there on her own and in a very reliable new motorhome?
Well, I can answer that question for you. After we went to San Felipe, my mom was just enthralled with the videos and what she saw there. So she and her good friend, both of whom are in their 50s and women, went down together and stayed in a condo there. She doesn't have a motorhome, so she did a condo there. But they drove down, they walked all over town on their own, and went out to eat and did the whole shebang. They both have traveled a lot, so they are very comfortable, but they had no problems whatsoever. And truthfully, I would feel perfectly comfortable even without Ben down there. I would
feel comfortable with you going down alone, if that says anything.
Yeah, I was never uncomfortable, and actually my mom's been talking about going back and maybe taking my grandma with her, and no worries whatsoever.
Yeah. But use good judgment. Yeah.
Be smart. Don't walk down dark alleys at nighttime.
Try not to travel at night. If you got some miles to cover, get an early start and cover those miles in the morning hours.
But even we do that. We cover ground early in the morning if we're able to.
Yep.
Make sure that you fill up with fuel every time you have the opportunity, and have your vehicle serviced before you go down. And
just take the ride for what it is and enjoy the journey.
But there's green angels on the highways, so if you have any trouble, what I read was that they usually pass by on a highway in the morning on their way down, and then they pass by again in the afternoon or evening on their way back to where they live.
It's an amazing service. So just Google Green Angels Mexico and you can read all about. It's like AAA, but free of charge.
But heck yeah, head on down. All right, Ben, Georgiana Thornton would like to know the best RV park.
We have not stayed at all of the RV parks, but of our travels, I would say Victor's RV Park is a favorite. Site 10 is just awesome. You guys seen that in our videos. And the one down in Guerrero Negro, the Malarimo, is beautiful. It was a bit tight for our rig, and we got lucky because there was nobody there, so we could kind of take up like all the room that we needed.
But they had a fantastic restaurant, and it was in
right
town.
there.
You could walk on foot wherever you wanted to go. They had tours leaving right from the RV park. And
I also think if we had a different vehicle, we would have ventured down the dirt roads to the remote camping destinations, because Baja's true gems are boondocking, and they're not necessarily always going to be in the RV park. So we were limited by our rig.
That one that we stayed at called Baja Seasons, just off of the 1D south of Rosarito. It was beautiful.
Very resortish.
It had a gorgeous pool and jacuzzi right on the beach. Our parking spot was right on the beach. You could listen to the waves roll in. There are palm trees everywhere. Beautiful grounds. And if you have a tow vehicle and you can get out of the park,
it's no reason you can't stay there.
Fantastic location. Honestly, like, I would stay there for a winter. It was fabulous. I loved it.
Next question from B Goo. What actually happened to the armrest?
It broke. The RV is, let's see, 18 years old, and you shut up. When I get nervous about the road, I do not grab that. I push on this thing. It's just old. I didn't do anything to it, and you stop making everybody think I did.
Does that answer your question? Dan Dubé, thank you for the link to that product on Amazon to take care of the staining and the headliner.
Yeah,
We're totally going to look into that when I take on that project.
That was awesome.
Okay, guys, our Alpha camera here is getting hot and starting to shut off on us. So I hope this looks good, but I just kind of set my hat to give the camera a little shade. But moving right along, Russell Quattlebaum asks, what cell booster do you have, and did it work down there?
Well, we actually didn't use our cell phone booster down there.
Didn't have to.
No, I mean, Bahia did not have any cell phone service. A booster wouldn't have helped you at all. The local Wi-Fi was questionable. I mean, you could check your email and Facebook, and that was about the extent.
But the Verizon connection was like great in Guerrero Negro, San Quintin, Ensenada, Rosarito,
San Felipe.
Yeah, you just get throttled after 1 gig per day. But if you're not uploading videos, 1 gig is plenty.
A day? That's a ton. Some people only use 2 or 4 in a month.
We have the Wilson Electronics 4G LTE. It's a few years old, and it was the first one that came out, but they've since rebranded it called WeBoost, and it's an amazing little machine, and I'm sure that it would have come in handy if we needed it too.
Yeah. Truthfully, like, that WeBoost is a game changer for us. It makes it so that we can stay in places when we first pull in without the booster. They're like, oh, I don't think this is gonna work. You turn the WeBoost on and your phone lights up with service.
Yep.
So highly recommend it, but we didn't really need it in Mexico.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, Mr. Kalon 52 says, does your captain's license and fishing guide license carry over internationally?
I can answer some of that and give you an I don't know for part of it, but fishing guide licensing is done state by state, at least in the US. I've never applied for an international fishing guide license, but that could be like Baja Norte, Baja Sur, unknown on that. My Coast Guard license, I've actually never really inquired into using that to work on a larger ship. I do know that there's like an able body or an AB program through the maritime academies, which kind of gets you set up to work on larger ships that go overseas. So I'm not necessarily sure if my 50-ton would work internationally, because I don't necessarily want it to, because I kind of enjoy being a fishing guide. And I guess if we do move abroad, I could inquire to see if it's valid there.
Jared would like to know where we've been so far, how many miles we've driven, and what kind of gas we've consumed, and what our fuel economy is.
But that's more not necessarily specific to Baja, but our first RV road trip around the country. There's a whole series of videos called the North American Road Trip, Alaska, Washington State, Maine, Florida, Southern California, back home.
And that lots of places in between.
Yeah, that was 17,000 miles in 7 months. Exhausting.
I still can't believe we did that.
But I don't necessarily take pleasure in mapping things out and tracking stuff like that. I just take it for it is what it is, and I'm more focused about the journey and the adventures on the journey than the details. But our motorhome gets roughly 7 to 7.5 miles a gallon towing the trailer.
Mm-hmm. This winter we came down from Alaska to Washington State. We did Idaho, Montana, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, just the southwest tip corner, Arizona, California, Mexico. And so we've pretty much stayed west of the Rockies. We do have plans later in May to head back east, and we're going to go as far as Kansas and visit my family's farm back there. So that's kind of what we've done this year. And I honestly haven't kept track of the miles.
And all these videos are on YouTube, so just search them up and you can follow the journey. Cindy Fry asks, what about boondocking in Baja?
Okay, so a couple of things on this point. Absolutely, you can boondock down there. In fact, if you get that book that we purchased, the Baja Mexico Camping Guide, written by the churches, it gives you all sorts of places where you can just pull off on these side roads and you end up down on a beach or a cliff or whatever. Absolutely recommend it. We had 2 issues. Number one, our RV just will not do some of those roads, and we were traveling alone, so A, we didn't want to take the risk on those roads, and B, there's safety in numbers. So if you're going to go boondock in some of those more remote locations, it would be nice if you could do it with friends. I don't think it's absolutely necessary,
no.
But those were our 2 issues, and most of it was really the motorhome. We don't worry at all about boondocking. We love it. All right, Ben, Mike and Willeen Gladu would like to know, what was the least we paid for gasoline, and does Gas Buddy work, and what about the All Stays app?
Okay, right now Mexico's going through like a bit of a gas adjustment, taking it from like being state ran to privatized, and they're in like this transition period, so it gets on the global market. Yep. And that may not even be 100% accurate because it's a very complex issue, but we kind of paid around $3.75 to $4 a gallon, because then you got to convert liters and pesos to gallons and dollars, and it is what it is. So I hate to say it, just like the mapping things out, I just swipe the dang card. I can't change it.
It is definitely more expensive right now because they are coming onto the global market. And from what we've read, this will stabilize soon, and they'll come to be closer to the prices we pay in the United States.
But that's all time will tell.
Yeah.
The Gas Buddy, we don't use that app, so I can't really say anything for that. And we had no need to use All Stays while we were down there. I'm sure you could go onto your All Stays app and zoom in and see if it's got stuff, but we generally don't use All Stays all that much unless we're looking for Walmarts while we're like kind of covering some distances and we want to see if it's a friendly Walmart to park for the night.
Campendium has started to post things in Mexico.
Yes.
As users have gone down there.
Yes, and sharing reviews and stuff.
Which we really prefer Campendium when it comes to finding places to stay. Like Ben said, we use All Stays to find Walmart, and then everything else we look at Campendium.
Yep, or a simple Google search. All right, last question from T. Jenkins. How is the search for the new RV coming, and are you going back to Alaska this summer?
Okay. Well, the search for the new RV for the EV, honestly, it's kind of in a rough spot right now. We have been looking at some other things. You know, we're pretty specific about the price point that we want to stay within. We have our reasons for that, but basically we want to keep it under a specific dollar amount.
And we'd also like to have very specific features if we're living in it.
Yeah. We are continuing to toss around ideas of alternatives to the EV if we cannot find our perfect rig, including maybe doing a van instead, like a 4-wheel drive van, or since we plan on starting in Europe, we have considered staying.
Hold on, guys.
Since we are going to start in Europe, and truthfully, you really don't need 4-wheel drive or an EV there, we have considered maybe doing like some longer term rentals and buying a small vehicle that we could do some weekend trips, like sleep in the back, you know, like a little, like a VW bug van or something. I mean, a VW van or something.
Forgive the wind noise, guys. This is real life.
Yeah. So basically, like the long and short of it is, we haven't found what we want. We're not going to settle because this is something that we will keep for a long time.
So our anticipated journey across the Atlantic towards Europe would be like the fall of 2018. So there is still a lot of time between then and now to see how the cards unfold. But every single day I go on to expeditionportal.com and there's the forums of the members selling vehicles and vehicles that people see on Craigslist. And I check those very, very regularly because when the right one pops up, we're going to be all over it.
Yep. And then there's a second half to the question.
There is?
Yeah.
Oh, are we going to Alaska?
Oh. So then to answer the second part of your question, are we going to Alaska this summer? Yes, we are. It's going to be a little later than we went last year. We went home actually like this week last year. And this time we're going to go home towards the end of June so that we can go back east and see my family and be at their farm for harvest.
But by the middle of July, we will be home in Alaska, and we're going to stay home in Alaska up until we pretty much leave for the journey in the expedition vehicle. There's going to be a lot of adventures in Alaska and probably some other international stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the plan, and we're really looking forward to sharing Alaska with you guys again. You guys will really get to see this amazing place through our eyes. Okay, guys, we really enjoyed answering all your questions today. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to follow our adventures. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.